Thank you for joining us on the latest episode of the To Hull and Back podcast with me, Drapiad, and we have Nathaniel and Ant. It's great to speak to you again, buddy. A few weeks off, but it's nice to finally have you back on the show. I feel like I've took your place these last few weeks.
It's fine by me, trust me. It makes my life easier. Now I've had a busy work schedule. I'm on a new work rota, so the days that we usually record on mean that I've now got to do like alternate swaps on. So it's been hard to get on, but it's good to be on. And it was good to get you on because I think from the last two episodes that I've actually watched as a listener, it's been a really good listen. So thanks for joining us.
No worries. It's an absolute pleasure. Nathaniel, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm fine, except my foot hurts really badly.
Oh, what have you done?
Basically someone kicked me.
Oh.
So
you don't need your feet for podcasting, so you should be.
Yeah.
Well, tell
it's
me.
Just exercise. It's bad for you.
Oh, it was exercise. What was you doing? A bit of a run?
Futsal. I was doing futsal, so someone kicked me.
Perfect example why you shouldn't bother, mate. So, guys, we have got a new sponsor. So, obviously, we're still sponsored by 6 Yards Out. So, they're a retro website. You can follow them on our link tree. Really good website, top quality, affordable retro gear, mugs and all them for Valentine's Day, Father's Day, Mother's Day is coming up. So perfect opportunity there. But we're also sponsored by a new business in Hull called Candy King, aren't we? And obviously, if you show your little sweet thing that you showed me earlier, Candy King are on Facebook and Instagram. They are going to get on Twitter soon. But as you can see, and my very glamorous assistant's holding up. So they're just a local business, aren't they, buddy? They do different kilograms of sweets. They deliver in Hull and the local area. But it's great to have them on board, another sponsor joining the Hull and Back podcast.
It is, yeah, because I know the two that run it. They're called Gavin and Troy. They live in East Hull, so it's a Hull-based business. They've only just recently launched, and for us to be able to use our platform to help sort of launch them and sort of help customers find out that they're about, that they go in and try and build some sort of trust in, because these kind of businesses, there's a lot of sweet businesses about in there. Let's be honest. Yeah. So do give them a try because we don't want to eat them all because I'm putting weight on, so somebody else needs to buy all the sweets before I do. But yeah, it's great to be able to support them mutually. It's a delight because obviously we want to support local businesses if we can. With it being a Hull City podcast, it makes sense. So check them out if you can.
Yeah, definitely. So remember, follow Candy King and 6 Yards Out. And remember, our podcast charity share is designed by S66 Sportswear. You can follow them on Twitter as well. If you pre-order now, if you pay effect, £5, £7.50 goes to Andy Mann's charity, which is a local charity promoting mental health and well-being in the local area. And we've got some good stuff coming up with them, guys. So stay tuned for that. And as well, we're trying to branch out. We're trying to do a bit more things. And we've started our own newsletter. So if you're watching now on YouTube, I've changed the banner. So that's where on Get Review, you can follow our profile. It's just another way to interact in it with the fans, and we find it really useful because then people keep getting updated. If anything's happened, we don't have to say it all the time. We don't have to promote it. If you have that weekly newsletter, it just keeps us interactive with the fans, and I think that's what you need to do with these podcasts now, don't you? The more content and the more stuff we do, when we're recording this, it's not live, but later on it's going to be on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and that's a way just to get us out there in it because we're competing with so many. But if we're out there on social media, it's so big nowadays, and the more content we do on, probably the bigger and better we're going to become.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're a listener of a podcast, you want to feel like you're involved in any way you can be. And I mean, to be fair, we recruited you, and then I messaged Joe in the chat and said I'm going to steal a few of his ideas because the Red Robins podcast, if anybody listens to it, is very successful in the way it's doing, and everybody that interacts with it seems to love the podcast. So if we can take a leaf out of your book and help incorporate some of them features into what we do, it'll help you guys listening to us stay in the loop with what we're doing, upcoming things that we're doing, any podcast related news, like for example a bit on the new sponsors, websites and things like that. So it helps sort of you just feel like you're part of us because we don't do this for the fun of it. It's literally we want to talk about our football club, and you guys want to listen to us talk about the football club. So if you can have an easier way to keep in touch with us and up to date with what we're doing, then it only increases your experience as a listener with our podcast, which obviously is a good thing.
Absolutely. So get following us, guys, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube, retweet and share, and mention that the Hull and Back podcast is expanding. We've got 2 games to talk about, and we've obviously got the QPR game to preview this weekend, but we'll go back to last Saturday. the league leaders, the best team in the league, who are probably going to be playing the Premier League next year with the best striker in the league, Alexander Mitrovic. It was always going to go one way, but I thought we did a decent account of ourselves. Nathaniel, I'll come to you first, buddy. Obviously, City losing out 1-0 to Fulham. I think when we previewed it, we thought, and especially the other lads, Joel and Will, will come on the podcast, we thought if we get a draw, if we become close to this team, we'll take it as a bonus. From that Derby game and that Preston game, the lacklustre effort there, you take it against the champions probably in a few months' time. And that's definitely a result Shota and the lads could be proud of, because I thought we played really well, all things considering.
Yeah, I think especially because of how many goals we could have conceded against Derby, it could have been 4 or 5 or more maybe. And Ebersole, especially, he cut us to ribbons, but that didn't really happen against Fulham. We limited them to just a few chances, and we definitely could have done much better with the goal. But, sometimes, they've scored 7 away from home twice this season. So for them to come down to a team, us lower in the division and it'd be quite an even game, and if we'd taken our few chances, which we did have, it could have been different. I think it's much better than the Preston and Derby performances, I thought, and we looked a bit more secure defensively, and we carried that across to the Sheffield United game. That maybe it's because Shota is the team are now playing in his preferred lineup or formation of 4 at the back and 4-3-3. So I think 1-0 against Fulham, we shouldn't be too humiliated by that. I don't think. It would have been nice to get something, but I think many teams will and have already done much worse.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, the Tigers lined up with Ingram in goal, the fullback of Louis Coyle, Sean McLaughlin, Jacob Greaves and Brandon Fleming, Ryan Longman, Richie Smallwood, Regan Slater, KLP, Honeyman and Marcus Force. And, I mean, a long way away, probably in the bigger picture of things. If Hull City want to be the likes of Fulham and we want to be up there, you look at their team and you look at even their back four. You've got Nico Williams, an international on loan from Liverpool, Tosin Adebayo, who played for Man City, Tim Ream and Robinson, who were American internationals, Mitrovic, Carvalho, Harry Wilson, formerly of Hull City. As good as they are, that's probably an indication that the lads who were playing, the young lads for us, Longman, KLP, Greaves, everyone involved in the club, that's the benchmark, isn't it? And to come one away, just one goal, getting beat by him. I mean, you look at the stats, and I think stats don't mean loads, but the possession was only 47-53. We nearly matched them for shots on target. And looking at the bigger picture, we wasted a few opportunities. We could have easily come away from it a draw, but a really good benchmark. And I think for sure to have a Ladsy, he knows the standard, what the Championship is now, because Fulham, they're technically a Prem team, they'd give the bottom half of the Prem a run in easily.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, they're the typical yo-yo club, aren't they? They go up, they come back down, and then, they're back to the
parachute payments.
Yeah, just sort of rekindle that money. And it allows them, the likes of Fulham, especially being in an area like London, to lure in a higher quality of players. And they'll probably bounce up and down between the Prem and the Championship till they find a formula that works and stay up there. And obviously Marco Silva, we know, is a very good manager in terms of playing attacking football, short passing and a high tempo kind of football that we wanted to see, kind of thing. Well, the McCann said he was going to try and play that we didn't really see often enough. But for us, like you say, we've got a very young team and a team that have played very inexperienced in the Championship level, but from League Two to League One. Like, look at Jacob Greaves, he was League Two a couple of seasons ago, League One with us last season, now he's in the Championship. KLP was thrown in at the deep end with us in that second half of the season, where we got relegated under McCann, but then last season had a good year, sort of a little turbulent around Christmas time with the whole contract debacle thing and being dropped, because if he played another game or something like that, he got more money. Mm-hmm. But then as soon as he was back in the squad, he found his feet again, and then he's hit the ground running this season. Is on fire. You got to look at these players and think, playing against the likes of Fulham, playing against players that are trained with Premier League teams, top Premier League teams like Liverpool, international squads that have got that experience. It's going to build our experience. So if we're going to want to build this vision that Adjan and Shota have got about being, playoff contenders in the next year or two, then a season like this, and playing against teams like Fulham, is going to give them that. And KLP is definitely on a route where he's improving every season. Greaves started the season a little bit wobbly, but he's getting better and better as the season goes on. And it's just one of these things, isn't it, where, you know, the right mix of experience and the youngsters in this current squad, and we could be onto something special next season.
I really hope so. And I mean, we'll speak about the Sheffield United game soon, and obviously it was unchanged. But Nathaniel, I think talking about Fulham, there was some very good individual performances. I mean, who stood out for you? I mean, one bright spark, and we keep mentioning him, and we're going to probably mention it again from last night, is Brandon Fleming. I thought he coped really well with the likes of Harry Wilson, Carvalho. You know, them kids on the transfer window, they're worth 20 million each. They're on big money. And I know it's not all about money, and some people don't justify the wage, but like we've already mentioned, the likes of these young players playing against these top quality opposition who probably aren't going to be in the same division of us next year is really beneficial. And I think we're growing, even though we're not picking up these wins under Shota at the minute, and sometimes we are still a bit inconsistent. Individually, I think you're seeing the best out of some people who you didn't see under Grant McCann. Brandon Fleming definitely being one of them.
Well, yeah, I think Fleming, he's really taken his chance, you know, with how many fullbacks injured at the moment and that sort of thing, and one more now with Coyle after the Sheffield United game. He's really taken his opportunity, and that's great to see. And he could be another, player in the summer or soon in the next year or so that, you know, might even go up a league or get a big move to maybe a higher championship club like Greaves or Lewis Potter being linked with. So, I think I've said it on the last two podcast episodes that, you know, it's really great to see these academy players come through, and hopefully that continues. Because the problem with bringing through these good young English academy players that will be worth so much is that then they'll leave and then you have to replace them.
Yeah.
So, if they weren't so good, it wouldn't be an issue. But yeah, I think he was great against Fulham and on Tuesday night as well. And I think Ingram, he deserves some credit as well, I think, because, you know, it's difficult when, especially in his situation where he was doing so well before he was dropped for Baxter, and might have felt a bit, disappointed that he was dropped, but he's come back in. He's been really professional. He's put in some really top performances against some good sides. So it wasn't a clean sheet, but clearly it's really great to have two quality goalkeepers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we hadn't spoke since I've joined the podcast, but I think what we said we're missing probably with Baxter. You don't realise his presence in between the sticks, and I think his communication. Ingram, again, we'll speak about last night soon, but he's a decent keeper, isn't he? And I mean, we didn't expect to sign a keeper on loan. When we got promoted, we thought Ingram would be a shoe-in for that number one spot again. But I think Nathan Baxter, just speaking to me and us three now, I'd love to see that make permanent. When we discussed the transfer deadline day, you can't see Baxter playing for Chelsea ever. They've still got about 5 keepers in front of him and about seven on loan in the under-23.
And with the new loan rule, I think that'll actually benefit us a lot.
Yeah. 100%, mate. Because I think they'll still try and get rid of Kepa, but they've got a lot of keepers in their under-23 system as well. And I'd love to see Baxter stay permanent. Obviously, he's missed the past few games. We're hoping to see him back soon, but I think you don't realise what a good keeper he is, and I think he makes our defence a bit more stable as well. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think the thing is with goalkeepers is they say they don't really reach their prime until they get like to their late 20s, 30s. Nathan Baxter's only, 23, 24? Early 20s, something like that. So he's at a stage in his career, and I've said this since we signed him on loan, that, you know, he doesn't really want to be the kind of player that's getting sent out on loan all the time. That this is the time of his career now where he needs to be finding somewhere to settle in permanently, to gain that, you know, experience and confidence that he's in a secure surroundings, that for the next 2 or 3 years he knows what he's doing, what his role is, instead of just being shipped out to different places all the time. But we know what Chelsea do. They've got a load of youngsters coming through, and then they loan them out loads of times, then sell them, and they sort of make money through it. But Baxter, I think, is now probably at that stage where they will be looking to offload him. Like you say, they've got plenty of keepers. They're not going to play him. You can't. Well, they might do, but at the moment you can't really see it with the goalkeepers they've got at their disposal at the minute. So yeah, definitely. He's one for the future. If we have him for the next 5 or 6 years, and he gets better every season, then we're going to have a cracking keeper, aren't we? And the thing is with Ingram is a number one contender as well, really. So if you've got 2 keepers like Ingram and Baxter in your squad that are both fairly capable of being a first choice goalkeeper rather than having like a strongest one and an okay lineup behind him. You've got two that are fully competing and pushing each other to bring the best out of each other. So in the long term, it's only going to benefit us definitely for the future.
I think working with Harvey Cartwright as well, we haven't mentioned him. He's obviously our number 3, technically our third choice keeper, but he's played at Gainsborough on loan and he's had a bit of experience in the Papa John's last season and stuff. But I think him working alongside them two, I know Ingram's not the youngest, but we have still got a young set of keepers. And I think if they can work together for the next few years, again, the way modern football's playing and the way playing out the back, how structured you're trying to be in your defence, the keeping role's probably never been as important as it is now. I don't know if any of you agree. You look at the last 20, 30 years, very old style keepers who just do the job and save and kick the ball as far as they can, whereas now they're another outfield player. You look at the way Man City play, and I'm not comparing us to that, but the way Edison plays, literally, he's a defender, the way he plays, and I think that's what the modern game's changing, and I'm looking forward to seeing how our keepers develop.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at, whatever style of football you're wanting to play, will depend on what kind of goalkeeper you want, and I think from what they've been saying and from what we've seen, occasionally in games at the moment, is we want to be able to be comfortable playing out from the back. So if teams are going to press you high because they know you're doing that, then your goalkeeper does need to be able to be comfortable on the ball and be able to pass it either side. You've got to have confidence in him to do that. So, like you say, if Baxter's shown that he's pretty good at that, Ingram hasn't really given us any reason to doubt his ability to do that either. So hopefully, the likes of Cartwright when they're in training, because that, to me, I don't know if anybody else agrees with this, but Ingram and Baxter are two very, very different goalkeepers to me. Like, they've got very different qualities and they offer the team something different. So, you want to be looking at Cartwright maybe in training, taking the best from both, because, maybe Ingram's a very good shot stopper, but maybe doesn't command his area as much as Baxter does, and Baxter maybe gives his defense a bit more confidence. So if you could merge them two and, in the future, have Harvey Cartwright as your number 2 behind the likes of Baxter. Maybe say we've got him 7 years down the line. Then, you've got another good goalkeeper coming up through the ranks, another local academy-based one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if any of you guys are listening, drop us in the comments who you'd start once they are both fit. So obviously Hull City losing 1-0 to the league leaders Fulham, a very valiant effort as we moved on to the Yorkshire derby at Bramall Lane, which was obviously last night when we were recording this, Tuesday the 15th of Feb. A 0-0 draw, a very entertaining 0-0 draw, and we'll discuss it in detail. Nathaniel, I'll come to you first before we discuss probably how much we did get dominated, and let's be honest, we do, very backs against the walls performance. Coming away with a draw, we was quite happy in the group chat, weren't we, to do that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's good to get a clean sheet against a big team like that who, at the start of the season, everyone thought they'd go up easily with the, especially the forward options they've got. They've spent maybe 50 million on strikers or something like that. And although, they did dominate us, they had a lot more of the ball. Expected goals was much higher, but they didn't actually have that many shots on target. So clearly, we got a lot of good blocks in, and if they did have a chance, it wasn't an obvious one. So it would have been nice to score because we haven't scored this week. But defensively, I don't think defensively that's been our problem this year. I mean, looking at the goals conceded and the clean sheets we've had, I think we're 12th in both of those statistics, which is good for where we are in the league, which is 20th, right? So it's just the forward options that we need to, improve. But before the game, I would have taken a draw, and glad we got one.
Yeah, I think it started a bit sourly, didn't it, Ant, when obviously Louis Coyle went off injured, and it's another full-back, wing-back, whatever you want to call it. It's another injury, and I think we're talking about the young kids. I think it was Baz Cooper who said, or I don't know, remember who it was, said about maybe Tom Nixon from the under-23s who's been playing really well at right-back. Could see him at QPR, but the more injuries we get, and we're bringing Callum Elder on, I think there was a stat where it said our back four are all left-footed. It might be the first time ever in history, and
Maybe.
as much as we still can cover it, as going into the back end here, we don't want to start picking up injuries. We haven't seen enough of Saïd Manesh yet. We have got a few niggles throughout the squad, and we always say about our squad depth, automatically you're missing about 4 or 5 players still. So not worrying times yet, but very upsetting for Louis Coyle for coming back in the squad. And a lot of people have been his critics, but even still, he's still our player, and it's sad to see him sidelined for what could be another month.
Yeah, I think more so because it's obvious that Shota wants to play a 4-3-3 system, so he needs his back four. And now, obviously, Coyle being injured and not really having any information on Emmanuel and the length of time that he's going to be out for means that we, again, don't have another fit senior right back available to play that four at the back, unless you're going to play, someone out of position, which I don't think he's really going to want to do. But yeah, like you say, Coyle, I was happy for him. Obviously, it's gutting now that he's injured because, against Derby, we played that 3 at the back system again. We used Coyle as the wing back. And I myself, didn't think he had the best game. I know, and none of them did really. But no. I don't think Coyle suits that wing back role. So the fact that we went back to a 4-3-3 and he looked far better in, the performances that he had from that point shows you that he's a very good right back, because we know he was last season. And now that he's injured, it means that he's not going to gain his momentum again, because he'd been out for a while anyway. And I think I just listened to Shota's interview about him with Bernsey after the game, and he was saying the same thing. He's had a length of time out, he's come back into the squad, started to find his groove again, and now he's back out again for a few weeks. And it's frustrating for a player like Coyle, because every time he goes on the pitch, he plays his heart out. He's one of those that'll leave everything on the pitch for the cause. Another local old lad. He wants to play well for us. So. Yeah, it's a bit frustrating because, especially from a fan's perspective at the minute, because I don't think we're still seeing what, our strongest side is or what Shota's looking for from the squad. And then now that we're getting to a point where it's looking like we can find that, we're getting injuries again and, new signings coming in and getting a couple of niggles. And we feel like we're still waiting kind of thing, to see what we're going to be experiencing as the Shota Avaladze Hull City. So, it just means that it's been extended a bit longer. We've got to wait a little bit more to see the full scale of what he wants us to do.
Yeah, Nathaniel, I'll come to you first before I ask you, Ant. We talk about formation, and under Grant McCann, if you mention 4-3-3, you'd be going spineless. He's scared to change it. Whereas when Shota's playing it now, it's like, is this the best system for us? As good as the point was, you look at the bigger picture, only 29% possession. A big stat for me is the pass accuracy was only on 65%. I do think our middles are still struggling to create anything. I think as sound as they are in the leadership role, I think Smallwood is the anchor of this team. And I do think we play better with him in. But I just think we've got to be a little bit more direct in our passing. Nathaniel, I'll ask you first. I think we only had one shot on target. We was creating chances, but we're getting to the final third. And we're just lacking probably a bit of calm and composure. But I think if we've got to improve somewhere, if we're having this 4-3-3 system now, then three midfielders have got to control the middle of the park, because we're just not doing it at the moment. And if we look forward to the next 3 games, you've got QPR on Saturday, who are on form and fourth. And then the 2 biggest games of the year, Barnsley and Peterborough. If we can pick up 2 wins out of them, you could be clear sailing for this season. So that's probably where I think we've got to change going into the back half of the season.
Yeah, as I just said, defensively, that's been okay, but we just need to find a way to score goals. And we had found a way playing with, the 3 or the 5 at the back under McCann. We were scoring at quite a consistent rate. But recently, those chances have sort of dried up under Shota. Against Derby and yesterday against Sheffield United, the chances we'd created weren't really good passing moves. They were mostly those sort of long diagonal balls to Lewis Potter to get him in behind. That's where we got our joy or all the chances. So we need to find more ways of getting chances, because although that's helpful, we can't rely on Lewis Potter. Sometimes it did feel like we were just sort of hoping he could come up with something rather than, and the chances we had were just sort of lucky breaks. So, formation-wise, I think you could play Bernard at right back, because he's certainly got the pace for it. And he was sort of playing like that, as a centre-half going forward anyway. But maybe he doesn't have the sort of qualities you'd want in a full-back in terms of crossing the ball in, that sort of thing. So we might have to go back to 3 at the back, and then maybe we'd get more chances to score. And I guess against Barnsley and Peterborough, you'd be less worried about the defence, and you're just more concerned about scoring against them. So maybe not the QPR game, but those 2 6-pointers, maybe going 3 at the back would be a good idea.
Yeah, the worry is though, isn't it? I think you mentioned there about We don't know how strong his team. We're not cementing a starting 11. And I think if you keep changing from 4-3-3 to 3-5-2, whatever his Shota wants to play, there's no stability and there's no chance for a team to get used to the structure and the way and learning their individual roles. And you don't want to do it where one week you're playing a totally different system because you're playing a different team. I don't know. It's so hard and there's pros and cons to everything. But at the minute, I think because of the situation with the new owners, the new everything, the new coaching staff, the new assistant and the head coach, I want them to cement their formation, their individual roles, so we can be ready, hopefully, for another championship campaign in a few months' time with an actual Shota Arveladze team. Yeah,
I mean, we knew that there was going to be rotation because it's a very busy month. We got 7 games, so there's no way you're going to watch the likes of Richie Smallwood start every single game this month, for example. But he is absolutely key to the way we play. Yeah. So if he doesn't play, we tend to struggle. We don't really control the midfield. So you've got this sort of like situation where you can't win because, especially now with a couple of injuries, like we're saying, and possible system changes and unsettling players' tactics kind of thing. But you see, it's weird because I know we just mentioned on your last question to Nathaniel, but obviously if McCann was playing 4-3-3, if he'd have gone back to it, he'd have been hung out to dry. But I think we didn't rate that. I know the formation was the same all the time, but I think the biggest frustration was that he never changed it up tactically. We would set up with the same formation, but we would play it the same way all the time as well. There's different ways to play the 4-3-3 that can work. So hopefully Shota's onto something different that can help us be a bit more, potent in attack in that way, because McCann's 4-3-3 left us too vulnerable at the back and we weren't creating anything at the same time, which is obviously a formula to lose. The 3 at the back, I still think, suits this squad more with the players that we've got. You're looking at the defenders that we've got at our disposal: Alfie Jones, Deshaun Bernard, Sean McLaughlin, Jacob Greaves. They're all comfortable on the ball playing centre half, so more than comfortable to come up the pitch with the ball. I think being in a back 4 restricts them a bit and sort of limits us in an attacking sense. But like you say, it's we're sort of trying to figure out what Shota's wanting from the squad. But we do need to sort of stamp that identity on quite quickly so that, for the rest of the season, the players can get used to it, stay in the division, and then, summer recruits, whatever comes in, to sort of help hammer that system home next season. And a lot of players are now familiar with it, and then we can sort of kick on and have a more promising next season than what we've had this year.
Yeah, I really hope so. And I think probably the next talking point to go to is the attacking prowess of Hull City and Marcus Forss up front. I mean, we was in our little chat, weren't we? And even though he didn't get the support he needed, I thought last night, and people will be surprised that I'm saying this, I thought we could have brought Eves on a little bit earlier. And that's just because of the way we was playing, because we was on the counter-attack, because we were just booting balls up front. It's just frustrating, isn't it? Because we seem to have this good build-up play, and it's the delivery, it's the final third at the moment. It is Longman or KLP having a shot because we're not taking it wide and crossing it in. And I'm just hoping in the next few games we'll get to see Saïd Manesh back, we get to see Marcus Forss working his magic, because so far, Nathaniel, up front, it's not really been great in the Shota Arveladze era, apart from that Swansea opening day. But again, like we said, it is early doors. We are not judging anybody yet. But in these next few games, which are vital, we need to put the ball in the back of the net, simple as. And we've got to find a way to do it. And we've got to dominate that middle so our attacking 3 can have more service and hopefully bang the goals in that we most desperately need.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking ahead, I think it's those 2 games against Barnsley and Peterborough are going to be so tense, especially if we're not scoring like 3 or 4 goals. Yeah. We might just have to nick them 1-0, but, that could work. Yeah, I mean, I feel a bit sorry for Forss, really, because, he's used to playing for Brentford, who create lots and lots of chances when he was in the Championship. Whereas he's come here and it's gone the complete opposite. We could have brought Eves on or started him, but I don't think it would have made any difference in the last 2 games because, Eves isn't... Eves does well to hold the ball up, but as we saw right at the end, he messed up a chance that Forss might have scored late on. So I don't really think it suits either of them to just lump the ball up the pitch. So Forss could have done better with his chance earlier on, but he needs better service, and hopefully if Saïd Manesh comes back, or we change the system or just improve a bit, He can get some chances, but I don't really think any striker playing with that tiny amount of the ball last night would have done much.
I think this all comes down to like the system and stuff, though, again, doesn't it? Because, like, you know, if you compare the Swansea game and the way that we controlled possession, the passing, how incisive we were down either side, how threatening we were, and then we didn't really see that again. We sort of, I don't know, we kind of abandoned that pass and move that we did against Swansea that was so attractive to watch.
I'm not happy with the new formation. I think we should go back to the old one.
We've sort of done what we used to do under McCann, where we want to play out from the back, but our play isn't fast enough in the middle. We like to pass it across the back four. It goes into the middle, and we get pressed back into our own half, and we start again. And then we end up just hitting it long. And our main outlet at the minute is trying to hit it onto the flanks for Lewis Potter or Longman to get in behind. But then once the defenders figure that out, we've got nothing.
No.
And we end up spending the rest of the game just sort of, hitting it up front and it coming straight back to us, which was a massive problem in the Sheffield United game because, we were looking for an outlet and a way to get out of our half, especially in that second half. And we couldn't. We'd hit the ball away and it would just go straight to a Sheffield United player and they would attack again. Yeah. And I mean, you've got to look at the chances we're creating. I think I put in the chat, in the last 4 games, we've only had 7 shots on target in total.
It's not good enough.
We've had 2 shots on target in the last 3 games and then 1 against Sheffield United. And I mean, I know we mentioned, Force is new, he's still settling in and finding the system and stuff. But I think he's had at least 2 or 3 chances to score. He could be on 2-3 goals at least already. And
the one in the first half, when he drilled it and he just went wide, I thought he could have scored.
Yeah. I mean, that's to me. If you're going to play in a system where your service is suffocated, you've got to make the most of the ball when you've got it. And our biggest Achilles heel this season is missing chances. I mean, even back when McCann was manager, our shots on target ratio to shots that we had and conversion rate is so poor. And I mean, we've obviously brought Force in because he wants him to be the goal-scoring striker that we needed. Because if you look at our goal scorers, it's Keane Lewis Potter and George Honeyman as the top 2. Honeyman's a midfielder, and Keane Lewis Potter played as a wing-back for the majority of his goals. So, it's obvious where if we had a striker who was, 10 goals or so, we'd be in the, mid-table, possibly looking at a playoff push this season. But, I mean, maybe we recruited Tyler Smith to be that as well, and he's not worked out that way. And it's just we've got strikers that don't tend to put the ball in the back of the net, and I'm feeling like Force needs to do it sooner rather than later because, like Shotta said in his interview, it's all about confidence with forwards, and the more chances he misses and the longer he goes without a goal, the harder it'll be for him to get that momentum and sort of pull us away from the bottom 3 even further.
Yeah, I think as good as the 3-5-2 was when we started playing it, even though it was Longman and KLP as the wing backs, they did get restricted some games. But because Fleming's come in now, you can play him as the wing back with Longman and push KLP up top, so he's still got that service. Maybe playing him with a Force or Sayed Manesh or Eves, whatever he wants to go. But I think now Brandon coming in and being on form and probably being our star man in these past 3 or 4 weeks, he's nailed down for that wing-back spot if we want to revert to that. And I think that gives us probably a bit more defensive structure because as good as KLP was as that wing-back with the attacking threat, let's be honest, he's not a defender. That's not his role. And I think if we do get to see him push up, that could work as well. If he's up there with an out-and-out striker, this could really work. And hopefully, because I'm with you guys, I'd love to see the 3-5-2 come back. I just think it suits the way we play. And as much as we was crying out for that, we have got a wing back now in Brandon Fleming. Or Callum Elder. It depends, doesn't it? It's so hard because you don't want to just put players in for players' sake. Callum Elder, is he going to go right back? No, he's a left back. Do you know what I mean? We don't want to fill circle holes with square pegs.
Yeah. You see, I'm actually in a minority. I preferred Keane Lewis Potter as a wing back. I thought he was a lot more threatening when he's in that position because it gives him the freedom of that flank. With the 3-5-2, it lets us sort of overload the midfield because one of the centre-backs would push up. And obviously, you've got your 2 forwards. One would drop deeper. And it gave KLP so much space to cut in. Him and Longman as wing-backs were very, very dangerous as a pairing because they would have to... Usually, a team would focus on one threat. So they'd identify KLP as our main threat. They would double up on KLP, but then Longman would have a good game and he would score. And we had that variation and that double sort of pronged attack that we seem to be lacking at the minute. In terms of, I don't like KLP up top because I don't think he sees enough of the ball. He's always he collects the ball with his back to goal, plays another 1-2, he's trying to get him behind, but we want to then go out wide and whip it in, and he's not going to win them headers. And I don't think you see the best of Keane Lewis Potter through the middle. I would like to see him out wide. But, maybe that would be something to try with the 3-5-2, have, Longman and Fleming as the wing backs. Longman and no, because then you have to drop Longman or Fleming, don't you? It's tough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want to be the manager in this situation because none of them. Fleming, I think, has been our best player since he's come into the squad, along the side of Sean McLaughlin as well, who's been brilliant. But it's tough. It's tough, but we need to find a way to score goals because the more we rely on KLP, the more we're going to struggle in games.
Who would you go up top, Nathaniel, if all fit? Would you play Force and Saidem and Esh? Would you put Eves? Who would you go if you was Shota Abaladze?
Oh, no idea. It's too difficult.
It's so hard, isn't it?
Well, if it was the front three, then you'd have Lewis Potter, Forge, and I guess Syed Manesh, maybe, possibly.
You're dropping Longman.
You're dropping Longman.
Longman at right back. Longman at right back, obviously.
What?
No, why not? Well, it depends. That right wing, I do think Forge will come good because I think he's a good, I'm going to say he's a good finisher, although he's missed some easy chances. But I think he'll come good. Oh, really? All he needs to do is score the winner against Barnsley, Peterborough, Cardiff, and Reading when we play them, and then he's a hero, and he can go back to Brentford, very happy. But that's all he needs to do. He just needs to get some crucial goals, and that our other strikers wouldn't do. And if it was the front two, I agree that you want Lewis Potter like as far back as possible. You could even play him as a goalkeeper because his quality is getting the ball forward. But if he's up front, we haven't got the quality to get the ball to him. So you want him to dribble up the pitch. So I'd probably have Forsh and Syed Manesh maybe, but we don't really know how good he is. We've seen him very briefly, but when he's back, we'll have better options, definitely.
The one player that's going to suffer in all this is Tom Eaves, and I don't think he deserves to, because since we switched to the 3-5-2, and a lot of people knew, and he's always been better as part of a front two. This transition back to a 4-3-3 will likely be the transition of Tom Eaves out of the club, I think, because he cannot. I know we want him to be a hold-up striker, but he has too much ground to cover in a 4-3-3 system. He cannot play the lone striker in the middle. We don't see enough of him, and we don't get the best out of him. And I just think that the club are looking to sort of get rid of Eaves, and I think it's quite harsh given that since January onwards he's probably been one of our better players, and
we've been trying to get rid of Eaves since we signed him.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. We could have lost him in summer and January, but he's still here, and I just think that he's played really well, and if you're going to play with a 3-5-2, he deserves his start for a while at least, because I don't know what Syed Manesh's position is. I mean, is he a winger? Is he a striker? Is he attacking midfielder? We don't know, do we? So, when he came on against Derby, he looked very lively and creative. But he was coming in sort of from the left-hand side, wasn't he? So I don't know. You've got variation. We've got a very versatile squad, which is good. Many of them can play different positions, and it gives you room to sort of switch it up a bit. But you don't want to be doing that so late into a season. You want to, like we said earlier, we want to have that identity now and that sort of stamped system that all the players know what the roles is and what they're doing, because it's just unsettling, isn't it? Especially when you brought new players in and they're trying to learn it, and the old players are thinking, well, I've played well. Why are I starting? Because Deshaun Bernard, Alfie Jones coming into it, and Bernard sort of vanished, and he's been one of our best players. So we've got a squad that's capable of good things, and we're sort of still trying to find a formula that works for us. So it's a little frustrating. I can only imagine how frustrating it is for management and the players themselves, but definitely as a fan, it's painful.
Yeah. I think one player who had a massive point to prove last night was Regan Slater. He obviously got the start, former Sheffield United player, back on permanent now at Hull City after a loan stint in League One. And you put on Twitter that he thought it was superb, and his dad, who was very vocal on Twitter, replied and said he thought it was decent. But obviously, as a dad, he's going to have different opinions. Yeah. I do think we could have a gem with him. I don't think he's going to set the world alight, but I think a steady midfielder who can control and dictate that play. Obviously, last night was going to be tough for him going back to Bramall Lane after that, they sold him for so cheap to us because they obviously didn't see a future in South Yorkshire, sorry. But I think Regan Slater looked really compact, and I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes. Again, another young kid. We've got him for the future, and we've got to build around the likes of him, KLP, Greaves. Hopefully they can all stay, and we can build a core team around these young English talents. And you never know what could happen, but I'm looking forward to seeing how Slater develops, because I think he's an absolute steal, along with Longman as well for the prices. We haven't really spoke to you, Ant, since transfer deadline day, but I think them two are obviously stunning how much we actually signed them both for.
Oh, yeah, absolute bargain. I mean, Longman could have easily, I spoke to a lot of Brighton fans because I thought I'd go on the wind up and sort of say about how cheap we got Longman for and how Brighton fans should be gutted, kind of thing. And they were all, to be fair, none of them were biting, and they were all being really nice, which was a little annoying. But they were saying about how much, as a club with Longman, they would have been looking to at least get 4 or 5 million for him. He's a good young attacking English player.
Yeah,
the going rates, especially nowadays, they usually go for a few million at least, and we've got
especially in January. Yeah,
in January as well. So 750k, and I think there was rumours that Swansea had agreed a 500k with him in before
it's like 5 installments as well. Yeah,
but the assumption from their side of things is that they've got a lot of add-ons on. So selling percentages, goals, appearances,
Ballon d'Or bonus.
Yeah. I mean, it's not been reported anywhere, which is quite, makes me think that maybe not. But they seem like that maybe the justification for it. Regan Slater for 50k though, I think is
it's basically free.
Yeah, it is. Nowadays, a football 50k is it's like a League Two standard signing, isn't it? But he is the perfect complement, I think, to the Richard Smallwood in midfield. So, Richie will do all the breakup play. He'll give it to Slater, and then Slater, because he's quite combative as well. Like last season when Smallwood got injured and then Jones got injured, and we thought, who are we going to play in that role? Because Slater sort of struggled when he first came into the side, but he came and made that role his own. And he showed that, he's like a little bulldog. He's got that bit of combat about him, but he's also good at, going forwards. And I think, especially against Sheffield United towards the end of the first half, he's seen a transition part of his game as well, where he collects the ball, but he wants to take it forwards, which is what Doherty used to do, but has sort of struggled with a bit lately. So maybe it was good for Doherty to get a bit of a rest and for Slater to sort of, push his levels up a bit. But definitely for the future, if Slater can make himself that all-round midfielder, if we've got him 5-6 years, same as Baxter, if he plays and keeps getting better like he is, then we've definitely got, a player that's either going to be a cult hero with us or be sold for a stupid amount of money to a Premier League side. So for us to sign them both for combined under £1 million is just, it's brilliant business and very good for the side for the rest of this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we discuss the QPR game, obviously City picking up a point from Bramall Lane. Nathaniel, who was your man of the match before I ask Stan?
I will give my man of the match to Richie Smallwood. Why not?
Yeah.
I don't think I've given him one in like 2 years. So, I thought he was really good breaking up the play, and we needed his experience in the middle of the park, and we look much better with him in. So I've been wrong about Smallwood all this time, clearly.
Yeah. And who was your star man? And I just wanted to ask you, Ant, has City kicked off yet? Because it looked like the second half that was coming out at 10:30, wasn't it?
I know.
Some very bitter people, weren't they, on Twitter last night?
There was. Sheffield United fans were not happy. I mean, I don't know what they expect. I mean, that's what teams do. When you go into a place like Bramall Lane, when it's sides in form, littered with Premier League quality like they've got, one of their players is probably, their wage bill's higher than our annual wage bill. So, we're going to go there and fight for a point. Of course we will. We're completely different ends of the table. So I don't know what's wrong with them, really. It's quite interesting, though. Did you see who was it who bopped over the advertising hoarding? And the Sky...
Two of them, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah,
Elder and
Ingram was looking over.
Elder had gone over.
Was it Elder? Yeah. And the Sky commentator suggested that maybe the fans were doing something to him, but apparently the Sheffield United fans in that stand reported that Elder flew over the hoardings, but then just stayed laid on the floor. So, maybe a bit more shithousing from him to run the clock down. So we love to see it, don't you? You hate it against me, but you love to see it.
Oh, yeah, if that was them doing it to us, you'd be calling them all the names under the sun.
Yeah, now, exactly. I think I'll not say the same. Smallwood was brilliant, definitely a man of the match contender.
Yeah.
Brandon Fleming was very good as well. So I'd probably give him mine. I just think as well, Fleming, as well as, defensively, I don't think he's the best, but he sort of has this determination about him that even if the player gets round him, he's going to make up for it, and he'll get back at goal side and force him back out again. Yeah. So, but I think Fleming's a lot better offensively. I think he'd actually be a good winger. I think his, the way he takes players on, his crossing is quite good. His link-up play with midfield and the KLP on that side was very good. I just think he's KLP very good.
Norrington Davis, didn't he, for a few hot dogs?
Yeah, definitely. So, I just think in the last few games, especially in the ones like Derby and Preston where we weren't very good, he was always that sort of shining light. Probably with another notable mention to Sean McLaughlin, who I think has not put a foot wrong since he's been in this side. I think it's not too long since, not too far away from an Ireland call up, because you can't ignore his form since he's come into the side.
He's rubbish, so don't need him.
Yeah, true. I think he's probably been our most consistent centre half since coming into the side, and he's undroppable at the moment. You've got Alfie Jones and Bernard that are right-footed centre halves, and they've chosen to put McLaughlin on that side instead. So I'd give it Fleming, Smallwood probably level, and then McLaughlin just behind.
Yeah. Same, yeah. But yeah, 0-0 draw. I think we'd have took that point, wouldn't we? And we move on. And we have got a very tough encounter on Saturday in West London. We travel to Killian Prince Foundation to take on 4th place Queen's Park Rangers. Lads, they're coming off a 2-0 defeat with London Derby against Millwall last night. But still, Matt Warburton's doing wonders for them, finishing 4th. I mean, they've got a lot of experience in the side. They've still got the likes of Charlie Austin. They've got Jeff Hendrick, who they signed from Newcastle, sorry. So they have got, Rob Dickey in centre-back, Marshall in goal. So they've got a lot of holding players, but they've still got a bit of that quality. I love that. What's his name? We're a weird chair, isn't it? Is it a dying chair? Yeah, literally. He's, they're 4th. It's another one of them games, Nathaniel, that you're looking at it and going, pretty much like the Fulham game. You're looking at the bigger picture of the next 2 games after this. If we can go and nick a point again, you're happy.
Before I answer the question seriously, I'll just repeat a joke I did 2 years ago. Chair, is he the sitting midfielder?
Right, that's all we have time for today.
What was the question again?
How are you previewing the match at Loftus Road?
If we play the same against Sheffield United and go for another 0-0 and we get a point out of that, I think that would be a good result. I mean, they're not in as good form as Sheffield United because they've lost the last 2 games. Exactly. I mean, that's pretty much the same as us. Was it worse than us even?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they can lose to Barnsley, then surely we can beat them, right? That's definitely how that works, right?
Yeah, that's the obvious one.
Yeah. So, it would be nice to see a little bit more attacking input, but I think another double 0-0 would be a good result.
I'd take it, wouldn't you? I mean, we're only 19 points away from 4th, so we're not that far off QPR at the moment. But no, I think, like we're going to mention, and we'll do it on the next podcast, discussing them 2 probably cup finals against Barnsley and Peterborough, which are must-wins, in my opinion. You go there on Saturday, if you can nick a point, pretty much when we went to Bournemouth as well, and who would have expected would have left the South Coast with 3 points that day. But I think looking at this bigger picture and looking at the next few months, if we come away on Saturday with 1 point, I'd be very happy. But we know what we're going to get. They'll dominate possession again. It's how our midfield cope. I imagine pretty much the similar gameplay. I will go on to our predicted 11 soon. But for me, again, difficult task. But like Nathaniel said with their form guard, they can get beat. They're very much the weak link, probably in the top 6.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Championship, it's that old cliche, in it? In the Championship, anyone beats anyone, don't they? So, I mean, they seem to have sort of lost their momentum at the minute, and this is the kind of opportunity you want to take advantage of. Coming into such important games, I mean, as City fans, we know we tend to do better against the sides up at the top anyway, and then struggle against the ones below us. So, it wouldn't be far beyond the realms of possibility that we beat QPR 2 or 3-0 and then lose both to Barnsley and Peterborough straight after.
Oh, don't say that.
But, if we can come out of QPR at least playing well as the bare minimum, like against similar to like a Fulham scenario kind of thing. If we're going to lose, at least make a good fist of it to take confidence into the next game. But yeah, we want to be aiming to take a point, because I think from the last 5, we'd have probably wanted 6 or 7 points minimum anyway. I think the Preston and Derby games were probably very poor by what the management were aiming for. So if we can come out of the QPR game with a point, you'd think that, the squad will be looking at Peterborough and Barnsley definitely saying, well, we've got more than enough in us to beat them. And if we do, then, it's pretty much us safe, isn't it? Because the leagues, it's a very strange league this season. I mean, the playoffs, I think any team from like 4th to 15th are in the playoff race, aren't they? And then there's like 3 teams that consist of like us, Cardiff and Swansea that are in no man's land. And then the bottom 4 that have got like Reading, Derby, that are just so far away points wise that, you're not really you're not looking over your shoulder concerned at the minute. So hopefully they see that as an excuse. We're 13 points clear at the minute of Peterborough. I know they've got a couple of games in hand, but they've got to win them. You see that as a no pressure situation, so just go there and have a go. I mean, we played well against QPR the first time, didn't we? I know they beat us 3-0, but it was very flattering for them, because I thought we actually played really well. So
that seems a long time ago, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, it does. But yeah, I think they're there for the taking. Go for it.
Yeah, let's go for it. Right, so let's go on to our starting 11. I mean, there's a bit of a difference between what we think will be the starting 11 and what we would go. But Nathaniel, I'll come to you first. What would you change from the game midweek in Bramall Lane? Obviously, we know Louis Coyle's not going to play, but who would your starting 11 be at this moment in time going into Saturday's clash against QPR?
Well, I think Shotta will probably go with a 4 at the back with Elder or Bernard at right back, but I'd want to see the 3-5-2 back. Yeah. So just the same sort of thing as we've seen recently. The usual, Ingram, the usual back 3 of centre backs. I guess Fleming and midfield of Smallwood, Slater, and Honeyman. Longman, of course, has got to be in there, and then. I guess Lewis Potter and Forsh up front, but it'll probably be a 4-3-3. And I really don't know who is going to choose at right back. It might be Longman, it might be Bernard, I think, and it might be Elder, but I'm glad I don't have to make that decision, really.
Did he put Alfie Jones on in like a left back role? Or did he switch to a 3-5-2 against Sheffield United? Where did Alfie Jones play against Sheffield United?
Slater came off, didn't he? So he had been the
Did he go in midfield along Smallwood? Yeah.
Yeah, he was midfield.
Just do the old Mike Bassett. Just do what you want.
To be fair, I actually think Alfie Jones is far better as a defensive midfielder than he is a centre half.
Probably. That's where he played for Gillingham mostly.
We've got enough in midfield, haven't we?
Yeah,
he did. Gillingham fans loved him in that role, and I think that run of form that saw us win the title last season was him in that role, playing that role. It was when he got injured, we got to panic stations, but then Slater stepped in. So we're pretty much covered in that situation. But yeah, he's definitely going to count as a centre half for the amount of midfielders we've got this season.
Yeah, who plays right back then? And I think if I'm going with my head and heart, I'd like to see Bernard play there, but I just have a feeling he might put Elder in and Nixon on the bench. I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, Callum Elder gets a lot of stick from this fan base. I think he actually played really well as right back.
Yeah,
I mean,
he did okay.
When I saw him come on, I thought, oh, no, we're going to be so exposed on that side. I really don't like having, the wrong foot on that side of the pitch. I mean, Josh Emmanuel, first game of the season against Preston, I think struggled because they know you're going to force you inside. But I think he played really, really well, and I think he could probably stamp some sort of claim to starting right back, and I wouldn't be too displeased with it because he didn't really do anything wrong, did he? So, yeah, I would probably start Elder there. If he's looking at putting a natural footer, he's got to either bring up a youngster, or he's got to. For me, it would be Bernard because in terms of being a progressive defensive choice for that side, but also having some sort of offensive capability, then Bernard would fit that bill. But I think I personally think he'll keep Elder there.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I'd like to see, again, Saïd Manesh, you want to, if he's fit, maybe get a run out in the last 20 and then maybe use him in the next 2 games. But I think it'll probably be very much the same side at this moment in time, apart from obviously Coyle, who's missing probably the next month. And again, it's getting that balance, isn't it? And we'll wait and see. I mean, I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think there'll be a few goals. I don't think it'll be a 0-0. I'm going to say, I want to say 1-1, but you never know, do you, at this moment in time? I'd take 1-1. Nathaniel, what are you having on Saturday before we finish up? I'm
not really sure. I think I think we were a little bit lucky against Sheffield United not to lose, really, even though we did play well. So I think, although QPR are in bad form, I think they'll have just a bit too much. So I might go like a close 1-0, like against Fulham.
Yeah. And what's the score, buddy?
See, I was going to say 1-1, but then you said it, so I changed to a 1-0, but then Nathaniel said it, so now I've got to make another one up.
6-4.
I'm going to go for an entertaining 2-2.
Nice. 2-2. Well,
I think we're going to go in front twice, and they'll peg us back twice.
A chair misses a sitter from the 90th minute. That's worse than yours, Nathaniel. I'm leaving it on that because no one will be listening now after mine and your attempt to be a comedian. But lads, it's been great to speak to you. I love doing these again, and hopefully we can be on next week with a positive result at QPR, building up to them 2 massive games in the next 7 days. So from me, Joe, Nathaniel and Ant, remember to check out our sponsors, Candy King and 6 Yards Out. Look at our podcast charity shirt. That's designed by S66 Sportswear. Follow them on Twitter. Get pre-ordering now, and £7.50 goes to Andy Man's Club.
We've raised £112.50 so far through the shirt sales.
Brilliant.
Obviously, that's the first batch of sales that went through and got processed. If you've ordered from, the last 3 weeks or so, it will be in the second batch. So that total will go up again. So if you can, just obviously keep giving, because the work that Andy's Man Club does is just phenomenal, and we all know mates that struggle from time to time. So if that, support network's available and we can use our platform to support that, then, and also provide you with a quite nice looking shirt, then, everybody wins, don't they?
They absolutely do. Well done, mate. Well said. And obviously, subscribe to our newsletter today. If you're watching on YouTube, watch the link below. And if not, follow us on Linktree, and it's on Get Review. And our profile is obviously Hull_and_back. So thanks, guys, for listening. Remember to retweet, share the Hull Back podcast. We'll be back with weekly episodes. Lads, I will speak to you very soon. Up the Tigers.